Do you want to get rewarded with a bunch of platinum by doing high-level content? Well, this video is perfect for you. What's good, folks? It's WARFRAME here with a new WARFRAME video coming at you with a Void Cascade build and guide. Recently, I've been grinding out that platinum because I was bored. But at the same time, I've been having fun doing so, and especially with the frame I've been enjoying a lot recently. Voruna. Now, for those people running in thinking, oh my god, this is perfect, I can earn a lot of platinum by just doing a mission, there are a few requirements. Number one, this ain't for newbies. So if you just started the game, you can watch this video and, build towards it, but it's definitely not for you. It's for intermediate and late game players. It is a game mode that requires a lot from you because you need to have the gear to do this, to then farm more gear, to then sell, and then rinse and repeat. Void Cascade is found in the Zeramin, right there, Tuval. This game mode is kinda similar to Netracell's, but at the same time quite annoying because of Thrax units. I will help you out understand how to deal against the Thrax and the optimal way to do so. Void Cascade is simple. You enter the mission, you're gonna find a green dome with these little tears in reality. I don't know what they are. Imagine paying attention to lore. They're going to connect to the center point, and what you're going to do is destroy these things by either void slinging into them or using your amp. Once you're done so, you're going to hear this weird sound in the middle. That's where the Thrax is going to spawn. You shoot that ball, Thrax spawns, kill the Thrax. Now this green bubble is yellow. And the main thing is you have to kill enemies while they're inside the dome. And you want to stop the Thrax units from recapturing this dome. That's pretty much it. Do this over and over and over and over again. These things that you're protecting against the Thrax are called the Exilizers. I have no idea what they do lore-wise, but you protect them. The main threat of Void Cascades are Thrax units. So the main thing you want to know about Thrax, they got the melee guy and the gun guy. You're going to meet a lot of these in Void Cascade. The melee guys are the one that try to recapture that Exilizer that you've just freed from their grasp. They have health and they have overguard. Another thing to note, they are a unique faction, meaning there aren't any faction mods against them. The best thing you can do is have either two Helminth abilities, Roar or Zanta's Whisper. Roar is a free faction damage multiplier that just works on everything, doesn't matter what they are. It's universal. Void damage is really great against Thrax units because Void tears through their overguard. But at the same time, if you have a strong weapon, bleeds, and a faction damage multiplier like Roar, you're not going to have issues with overguard. Another thing to note is that Thrax have two forms, their regular form and their ethereal form, almost like Vomvalists. So when you destroy their regular form, they turn into this ethereal form. In this ethereal form, they're immune to all of your normal damage types, but vulnerable to Void. Another thing to note about the Thrax as they go into their ethereal form is that status effects carry over into their ethereal form, which is a good and a bad thing at the same time. Cold status effects are the bane of your existence, especially when fighting against Thrax. Does it hurt you in any way? No, it just slows down everything else. And playing Voruna, you have a chance at proccing cold on these Thrax units. So as you see, in their ethereal form, status effects carry over. So that means if you prime them with viral, killing them in their normal bodies, as they go into their ethereal form, they have viral, which is a huge multiplier against their health. And you pair that up with void damage and a void debuff, you can shred them fairly easy. So right here with cold status effects, look how it slows down these ethereal forms. And there with viral, I do a lot of damage. So that's the one thing you want to avoid when you're doing Void Cascade is using cold procs. Yet, I'm using Voruna, which has a chance at proccing cold with her second ability right there. Amps are going to be a really important piece of gear that you need when you're dealing with Void Cascade, because that's the only way to deal damage against the Thrax unit's ethereal form. Amps themselves use arcanes, and the two arcanes that I use for amps are the same ones that you get from farming Void Cascade. Go figure. However, you can just easily buy these from other players, they're not that expensive. As you know, amps are comprised of three components: your prism, scaffold, and brace. And there's several different types of amp combinations that you can have to use against the Thrax units. And the amps that I recommend to use are the 177, which is the Raplak prism, Propa scaffold, and Certus brace. While the other one is the 777, which is the Clamora, Propa, and Certus. All the numbers that you hear are different tiers of the amp parts. So the 1 is the tier 1 prism. Depending on the number and order that you hear, you will know what amp part goes where. And the amp that I was using for Void Cascade is the 577, which is the tier 5 prism along with the tier 7 scaffold and brace. I find this amp to be one of the most comfortable ones to use because it's a burst fire and deals quite a lot of damage. Going back to the Amp Arcanes, Eternal Eradicate grants me base damage on my amps after I perform an operator ability. You can easily do this with any focus school. And finally, Eternal Onslaught, which gives you 180% crit chance on your amp. As you notice, on my amp, I have 54% crit chance on the primary fire. And multiply that by 180%, I got a 151.2% crit chance on my primary fire, which means I have a 51% chance to hit orange crits. And when it comes to your operator loadout, it's not only your amp that needs arcanes. You're also going to need your operator arcanes. The ones I'm using are Magus Melt to give me bonus heat damage on my amps, which functions like a mod on your amp, and Magus Anomaly. Performing a transference pulls in enemies. This arcane is going to be very useful in Void Cascade to drag in enemies into the yellow dome so you can kill them. It's very useful if you don't have the Nautilus Sentinel with Cordon or if you're using any other companion. Even though I said any focus school works, I highly recommend using Madurai because it is the highest damaging focus school for your amps. You have your first ability, which is Void Strike. Consumes all of your energy to give you a damage multiplier. This instantly triggers both Eradicate and Onslaught with one cast. You also have Contamination Wave. This debuffs enemies so they take more damage from your void attacks coming from your amps. And you also have Power Transfer. This gives you 100% amp critical damage when you transference into your operator. So you have 3 amazing damage increases just from this focus school alone. So now let me show you easy ways to trigger these arcanes. Number 1, when you transference, you get Power Transfer. This is that critical damage on your amps, and of course, going back into your Warframe gives you 50% casting speed. Using Contamination Wave will immediately trigger Eternal Eradicate to give you damage on your amps. And of course, casting this ability multiple times and a Void Sling will trigger Eternal Onslaught, and at the same time, Magus Melt, which is the heat damage on my amps. Debuff them with Contamination Wave, Void Sling. Also, make sure to headshot them because they're still weak to headshots even though they're in their ethereal form. Also, you can debuff them with Contamination Wave, activate Void Strike, huge damage. Now here's a trick called Void Sling Canceling. When you're void slinging, do you see that line that tells you where you're going to end up at? You can cancel that void sling by shooting your primary fire. So as you're slinging, boom, I'm canceling it. This is able to deplete your energy and trigger Eternal Onslaught. However, it does not count as a proper void sling to trigger Magus Melt. So if you want, do your Contamination Wave, your Void Sling, and you easily get Magus Melt, Eternal Onslaught, and Eradicate. And that's pretty much it for the amp section. Now, after talking about these Thrax units for quite a while, why are they so important? Besides them recapturing the Exilizers? Well, because they're the ones that drop the Arcanes. And this is why we farm Void Cascade. And Void Cascade is one of the missions that scales really quickly. So if you get yourself an organized team, everyone knowing what they have to do, you can easily breeze through these missions. Almost makes them look childish, even though they're supposed to be quite challenging. Another thing to note about farming these Arcanes, it's done even better if someone on your team has a mod drop chance booster, because that affects the Arcane drops, as well as mods and endo. Also, make sure to do it in Steel Path, because now you're increasing the drop rates even more. But if you don't have one, it's fine, you can still do it, you're still gonna get Arcanes, because you still have that Steel Path modifier. And all the Arcanes that drop from Void Cascade are the ones that you can purchase here. So with Void Cascade and your standing, you can double dip in your rewards. And once you get enough of these Arcanes, you can trade them, earning a lot of platinum. However, if you get crappier versions of those Arcanes, you can use them in Arcane Dissolution. So you can convert the crappy Arcanes into Vosper to then purchase other types of Arcanes. As you've been noticing this whole time, I am using Voruna. Voruna offers a lot of things, and some really good survivability options, because some of the best ways to survive in Void Cascade is either to play Revenant or Invisible Warframes, or frames with pretty decent damage immunity or fast shield gate refreshes, because you're going to get damage incoming left and right. Because the main thing Voruna has is her second ability passive, which is a status immunity. This is complete status immunity. As long as you have this active, it cannot be dispelled. So this is really good against all the incoming status effects, especially the magnetic status effect that you can get from the Thrax units or any Corpus enemy units that can try to suck away your energy. On top of that, she has really good energy economy thanks to her Lycat's Hunt. And you pair this up with Equilibrium, you're sorted. And the main damaging thing that she has is Shroud of Dinar, which boosts melee weapons. Literally close your eyes, pick a melee weapon, and you're done. That's the great thing about Voruna. This ability gives you crit chance, status chance, which is an absolute multiplier, meaning you'll be capped to 100%. So that means you're going to be critting 100% of the time, and you won't even need to mod for Weeping Wounds on your weapons. And the best part is, it makes all of your strikes force proc bleeds. So you can have a fully loaded viral weapon, use this ability, and now you're just swinging and slashing everything in sight. On top of that, it also gives you critical damage. So this Warframe is pretty packed. She has all the survivability she needs, energy economy, and buffs to her weapon. So you can do two things with the Helminth. Number one, go with Zata's Whisper or Roar. Zata's Whisper can be annoying if you're playing in a group because you'll have people who are using guns, and Zata's Whisper with the melee can proc bubbles all over the body, and it can annoy your teammates. So I went with Roar. The best thing about Roar is that it's a universal damage multiplier, and you can share it with your allies. And it's also really good against the Thrax units because there isn't any Thrax faction mod. So this ability works as a faction mod against the Thrax. And for the people who are really observant, already saw the weapon combination. It is the Argonac and a dagger, because for one, you can just mod your dagger with viral. You're already getting bleeds from Voruna's one. On top of that, you're armor stripping, and you can use the melee influence arcane to spread electric procs and spread the armor strip. Now this loadout has everything you need to go up against level 9k Thrax units and anything in Void Cascade. As you approach Zariman, you can see that there's a ship right next to the Zariman ship, and this will tell you what faction you're going to be up against when you enter these missions. So this is a Grineer ship. That means we're going to be fighting against Grineer. So make sure you take your Grineer faction mod. So you see the green dome. As soon as you approach this green dome, you're purged from your Warframe. And now you have to destroy these rift things. You can either use your amp to shoot them or void sling into them, if they're right next to each other, of course. And now the Thrax unit spawns, and you hit this Void Manifestation. And you kill the Thrax units. Make sure to kill the enemies within this bubble, so then this thing can suck up their energy. Boom. Now we go to the other Exilizer. Void Sling. Shoot that. Prime the Thrax. Kill it. I have cold proc on him. That's why he's slowed. But with Matter Eye, we can easily shred him. Here's a Thrax. This is the guy with the melee. He's coming to capture the Exilizer, but just kill him. Because if you don't deal with him and he captures this Exilizer, you're going to be booted out, and it's going to turn into that green dome again, and you have to recapture it. Another thing to note about the Thrax is that as soon as you kill them, they will try and find enemies and suck their juices to then go back into their normal bodies. This is pretty much Void Cascade. You do this over and over, capture them, fight the Thrax units, they drop arcanes. Oh, here's another Thrax unit that came in. Oh, and they died. They got cold procced, which is kind of pain. And that's another thing you have to worry about. Your operator is really squishy. Okay, here we are back in the Orbiter. As you already know, I'm using Voruna, and Roar is my Helminth. For the Archon Shards, I have 2 yellow shards to give me casting speed. This makes everything smooth and fluid to use, especially going in and out of Shroud, Fang of Raksh, and casting our Roar. And the blue shards are going to be our energy shards, since I won't be running Prime Flow or anything like that on the build. And now onto the Voruna build. In the aura, I have Growing Power for 25% additional strength on all my abilities. Also have a look at my range. I am running Cutting Drift in the XLS along with a rank 4 overextended, Archon Stretch, and Augur Reach. All of this is to increase my status spread radius on Fangs of Raksh. As you can see right there, 18.55. If I had this maxed out, I will have 19 meters. But I want to balance out my strength so I don't completely deplete it while also having a decent amount of range. With a max overextended, I'll have 108, but I just want additional strength so that my roar is stronger. And also I get a bit more critical damage with my Shroud of Dinar. Duration here is at 155% with Prime Continuity. You can add a bit more duration with Molt Efficiency, but you're going to be noticing your shields being depleted quite a lot. Like its Hunt and Equilibrium go hand in hand. Kill enemies with melee, you get those health orbs and it gives you energy. So that's why I never have energy issues with this build. Rolling Guard, when your shields break and you want to reposition yourself, it's very good to give you those 3 seconds of invulnerability. You're going to notice this quite a lot, especially if you're engaging a group of enemies and Thrax enemy units. For those saying, you don't need it, enjoy floor POV. Of course, to counteract the negative strength that I have from overextended, I do have Augur Secrets and Umbral Intensify. I don't want any negative efficiency nor negative duration. That's why I have it like this. And for the Arcanes, Arcane Strike for the attack speed and Molt Augmented for some additional strength. So we have 60% from Molt Augmented, 25% from Growing Power, and 40% from Sling Strength. Those are the 3 conditional strength increases, apart from my modded values that you see right here. For my weapons, I have the Argonac modded with Amalgam Argonac Metal Augur. Another thing you'll need to make sure is to have a primary Dexterity Arcane. This is just here for the combo duration. I'm going to have this on my primary and secondary. And now the main DPS weapon here is the Shayura's Wrath, aka the Bala Za, built from the Bala, Peye, and Varjeet 2 Jai. If you don't want to use a Za, I recommend other daggers like the Ceramic Dagger and the Raktadak Dagger, or even the Inadem. All of these offer you some amazing utilities. Inadem gives you the sprint speed and some additional funnies. Raktadak Dagger replenishes your shields, so pretty damn good. Ceramic gives you the initial combo and you can throw out your projectile. On top of that, it comes with some juicy crit and status chance increases, depending on how you want to go with it. And the reason I went with the Bala Za is because it can equip an additional arcane. Zas are modular weapons, so that's why they have access to the Exodia Arcanes. You can run Exodia Triumph, Exodia Contagion, Exodia Brave, whichever one you want. I went with Triumph because it's easy to build up combo, and you can have that annoying issue with Tennokai where it bugs out and you activate it only to lose all of your combo. Condition Overload for my base damage when I prime enemies. Reach for the swing radius. Berserker for additional attack speed. Just to make this thing really fast. Our faction damage mod, of course, if you're fighting against a certain faction, use it. It's going to be really beneficial for you. And here I have it modded for viral electricity. Here I went with raw viral damage because when you pair that up with Shroud of Dinar, all of my strikes will proc viral and at the same time slash enemies. So I have my viral and slash. And electricity here is because of melee influence. Pairing that up with my dagger and the spread, I can armor strip enemies, spread viral, spread electric, armor strip, and at the same time spread my Fang of Raksh status effects. So I have crazy status spreading. And the final mod here is Organ Shatter because I'm already at 100% crit chance with Shroud of Dinar. Might as well multiply the damage I deal when I actually crit. For the companion, you have 2 options, the Nautilus or the Smida Kavat. Smida if you want some additional resources and bonus Steel Essence, thanks to its charm buff. But the Nautilus here is really good because it pulls in enemies so you can kill them faster to speed up the Exilizer. The build is simple. Cordon for the radial sucking, Guardian to replenish your shields, Manifold Bond. This reduces the cooldowns of my Sentinel's abilities and easily done because I'm proccing multiple status effects. Tenacious Bond for the critical damage increase. This needs a high critical chance weapon, so that's why I'm using the Vol Cox. All you have to do with the Vol Cox is have a critical delay and you're done. The only downside to this build is that Fang of Raksh has a chance of proccing cold procs, which can slow down the Thrax. But I still took it against the Cascade cap and had no issues. The only time where I found it was quite annoying and where my operator couldn't survive the attacks from the other enemy units. That's about it. Otherwise, it's a clean and very simple build that you can use to farm insane amounts of arcanes. Anyway, folks, that has been it from me. I do hope you've enjoyed and learned something from this video. video. If you did, please feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe for more Warframe content, streams, and so much more. Do refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace. Bye-bye now.